So the whole Windows people deleting curl from their system that happened back in April.
Right.
Yeah, that was a that was a situation.
Yes, and I I suspect that might happen again. But so yeah, since yeah, so that's part of my entire argument,
Mhm.
discussion, fight, combat with NVD, the National
Yeah.
Vulnerability Database. Since when we report security vulnerabilities in curl, which we
Mhm.
do at the rate of a few every year, maybe
Okay.
more than a few, a total of 145 now, I think,
Mhm.
through the years. So we take that seriously because that's sort of what people expect from us. So people report a security problem, we research it, figure it out, document it, and report it, and there's a CVE ID and a number and blah blah blah. Um, and when we do that, anyone who does that, we submit those CVs so they get collected in the database. And NVD is a U.S. government organization that's
Okay. Okay.
funded by the US government.
Mhm.
That's called National Vulnerability Database,
Mhm.
whatever nation that is. I wonder, but
The world
okay.
nation.
So anyway, but they import those CVEs
Mhm.
that people submit, and they then reevaluate the score, or they set a score for that vulnerability.
Mhm.
Um, and that is a fun subject, because who are they to say how important a bug in, for example, curl is?
Right.
I've documented it. This is what the vulnerability, this is what happens, this is sort of the bug, and here's the fix. So everything is open, right? So if you would like to, you can go and read the code and figure out exactly what the problem is, if you understand C code and want to spend some time on it. So it's not, it doesn't take a genius, but it takes, you have to invest some time and have some clues.
Mhm.
But I don't think they have that. I mean, they might have clues, but I don't think they have the time for this. So they don't really actually investigate the problem. They just
Mhm.
put a finger up in the air and say, oh, this is a severity, and they have the CVSS score thing. So yeah, they end up with usually a very inflated score.
Mhm.
So in the Windows case then that we talked about this spring, it was a problem. I I think I graded it as a low severity thing
Mhm.
because it's a use after free.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
it's a very limited time window, and actually, free, and then we use the data. So it was sort of okay. This is a potential security problem,
Mhm.
really, really hard for anyone to take advantage of. It will probably maybe cause a crash sometimes.
Mhm.
Usually, you won't even see that. So okay, but NVD considered that to be I don't remember the grade. They said, I think they said critical first, and they lowered it to a high or whatever. But anyway, they set a score for it. So NVD comes up with, this CV has score
Mhm.
and the number, right? And fine, we can just disagree, right? They could set a score, I
Sure.
can set a different score. Who's to say it was right? That would be fine if it wouldn't be the sort of the follow-up is that nowadays there's a lot of these security scanners who are also importing all those CVs into their tools. So
Mhm.
now they have a bazillion different CVs, and they scan operating systems for vulnerable components.
Mhm.
Who is vulnerable for these different CVEs? And they started then to find curl vulnerable for this CVE rated this high. And a lot of organizations apparently nowadays also then have a contractual obligation to fix all problems that have CVE graded higher than
Right.
7, 8, or whatever. And they have they have a contract to say they must fix this problem within this number of days.
Mhm.
So sure, now you have, and then when they find curl embedded in Windows,
Mhm.
vulnerable to this CVE, very serious one, critical, you have to fix it within 5 days. What do you do as a user? How do you fix it? Well, you can, I guess most of these people, they don't actually call someone at Microsoft.
No.
I don't know if they can or if it's even possible.
Well,
So how do you
especially if
fix
you're
it?
like an individual user who is running one of these security scanners.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you can do well. A lot of people did one of two things. A lot of people downloaded curl from us, a new Windows executable, the latest one, and just replaced the one in Windows. So overrode it with a new one. And some just deleted the one in Windows, which is in C:\win blah blah blah, whatever it is, and just delete it. And the security scanner is happy. Mission complete. Until, of course, a few days later or whatever, when you try to do Windows update. And then it says, nope, I'm not going to update. You have tampered with the Windows installation.
I love Windows. It's great. Like, a Linux system, if you tamper with it, it's like, the file's gone? Okay, whatever. It's fine. It's not my problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we just download stuff.
Then you put it back in the next because you get a new version of that. Yeah, but that's not how Windows works, apparently. So I got quite a few questions and people actually pretty upset about that. But because suddenly their Windows updates didn't work. So how do you actually upgrade curl for Windows? And then you end up, like me, you end up in a really weird position because I didn't ship that curl to them. They didn't download that curl from us even. They downloaded that as a part of the Windows installation, right? So they got it from Microsoft, who built it, compiled it, and shipped it as part of Windows. It's really part of the Windows.
Did you get bug reports like directly to the curl project during that?
Yes. And also I also got, since I sell curl support, I also got people trying to buy help from me to solve that. But I mean, I couldn't. It's not that easy to fix because it's not our problem, right? It's a problem with that user and their Windows installation. So it's not. Yeah.
What I found kind of the worst part about that was when people were going to places like MicrosoftAnswers.com, and there were people who were like marked as like official help there, who were suggesting deleting it.
Yes, exactly.
It's one thing if you go to Reddit and there's some just random person tells you. When you are marked as like the official help guy and your advice is tamper with the Windows system, which is going to break the updates, like that's not good advice.
No, that's really horrible. So of course that is totally, a good explanation why people would do it, right? It says so on the Microsoft site that that's the solution. So that's not even, of course you would do that if it says so on their site and it seems to be a trustworthy person who is sort of, So they kind of led the users into that trap, and then bam, now you're in deep doo-doo.
And I did notice there was a more recent one you talked about in your blog, the CVE 2020 19909.
Yes.
So I didn't actually read the blog. I briefly skimmed over it, but what's the deal with this one? Because that's a CVE from 3 years ago, judging by the number on it.
Yeah, this is a totally different level of crap, really, but because this is multi-layer stupidity. So I don't mean to say that I'm unique here either. This is not the first time it happens. This is just a sort of a sign of the CVE system being a rather flawed system. So basically, CVE is a way to this is a bug tracker ID. So anyone can submit a CVE or create a CVE ID. It's just submit it and say, here's a bug in this product, blah blah blah, and someone then did that, and this is an old bug from 2019.
Right.
It was actually a bug. Someone actually reported as a security problem back then. I dismissed it because it's not a security problem. It's an integer overflow. So it makes curl misbehave. So it's a fun overflow too because it's in the retry option. So if you say retry in 9 bazillion years, and so instead of retrying in a 9 bazillion years, it's actually wraps around. It becomes 12 seconds instead.
Right.
But it's a highly unlikely scenario to actually happen because who is going to use that? Oh, apart from so I determined this is a bug because it wraps and it behaves stupid. So it's a bug. I fixed it.
But there's nothing
like
security related.
3 years later, someone created a CVE for this, and it ended up in the NVD database again. And what do? They set a score, and do they check it out? As I said before, they probably don't have the knowledge and skill. And in this case, they probably just roll a dice or they just pick the default value or whatever. They said 9.8 critical, which is, 9.8 out of 10. That has to be a pretty nasty bug, right?
Yeah.
Instead of that wrap around for the retry time, so they could actually retry in 12 seconds instead of the end of the universe. So now there's this totally bogus CVE said to be 9.8, and it's not even a bug. And we fixed it 3 years ago. It's totally silly. And then nowadays, of course, that bug now appears everywhere because everyone is adapting to those new CVEs that pop out. So now everyone has to say if their operating system is vulnerable to this security flaw or not. But this is not really. This is just a stupid thing. So I've of course tried to reject this now in the database, but it's a slow process, and it's much harder to take it away than for someone to put it there. So I would say it's a sign of a rather non-optimal system for doing these things.
I wasn't aware that just anybody could submit a CVE in that way. I thought there was like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of oversight in that regard.
Yeah, I'm telling you now, I'm opening the Pandora's box. No, it's actually slightly more complicated than so, because there's also a way to just make it slightly more complicated. So when you ask for one of these CVEs, an ID, there are hundreds of different organizations that work on giving them out. So it's a distributed system. So you one of those that you ask for. So and what those they're called CNA, number authority, CVE numbering authorities, I think. They can actually lock down and say only this authority can give out numbers for that particular product. So you can actually have a particular authority. So then you can actually limit how much. So that's why you cannot just get a CVE on any known brand product you can think of, because then they will say, oh well, you have to talk to this CNA, and they will. So if you make that up, they will say, no, this is a bogus. We won't give you one. So there is some kind of system in place, but that system just protects a certain subset of products. I don't have a product that is protected this way by any CNA. So you can, for our products, anyone can create a CVE at any time.
It seems like I was just having a look at the CVE now. It seems like there has been some update here. It is now marked as disputed and links to your blog post about it. So it seems like
that's good.
It seems like there's been some effect there, which is good. It's still marked as 9.8 critical, but it's at least got disputed there. So there's something.
That is good. That is good. Yeah. So since I've had this, I have this conversation with NVD. So I've been I think they've inflated the scores on our CVs many times. So I tend to email them every now and then. So I emailed them about this as well. So I've sort of said, this is completely wrong. You should just mark it somehow, remove it ideally. And they are MITRE.org is the organization that actually hosts the sort of this source database. So now I have asked for it to be rejected there as well. So ideally, hopefully, at some point, someone will say, yes, it's silly, we remove it. But I think also my blog post actually sort of got noticed by quite. I noticed that the Ubuntu one also says now it's disputed and links to my.
It says this CVE is not a security issue, and the co-author intends on disputing a CVE, marking as not affected. Priority low.
So there's hope that there's going to be some level of sanity, at least.
Surely, if you just complain to them enough, they will eventually fix the system.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're gonna write the exact same blog post 3 months from now. I guarantee it.
I fear that, but I also have some other plans in motion to address this in a wider and in a better way too. So actually, I'm probably going to apply to become a CNA myself. For the curl organization in that way, because then I can, as I mentioned, limit that scope so that I can limit who can submit CVs for our products, and also hopefully reduce the rescoring that NVD does on the issue. So hopefully that action can fix both of those. I think it's a bit sad that I need to go that path, because it doesn't seem like a scalable way, because certainly not the entire world can solve it like this.
Yeah.
But I'm trying the best I can to solve my issues, at least.